Okay, the purpose of this problem is to explain the solution to the hidden word problem, specifically to show you how loops are used within this solution. I also would like to use it as a review of several concepts that we've talked about in class today. You're more than welcome to use this video and to update your solution to make sure that it works and to bring any questions that you might have. I've added several comments throughout this particular video to the class, and you're more than welcome to pause it as you're listening and to review and update your solution. My variable names may not be exactly the same as yours, but you can see that there are plenty of comments here that I've added to try and explain what's going on here. Okay, I will not read all of the comments, but I will go through every statement, and I'll do this rather efficiently so that if you need to pause the video or ask a question during class to follow up, please do so. Okay, hidden word. Let's make sure we first understand the problem, and the hidden word is actually going to take in an actual string word that will update the hidden word, and that will be a private variable. So the constructor here for hidden word actually does one and only one thing, which is to update and assign, or actually initialize, all of the private values here, which in this case is only one string variable named hidden. Okay, so we're given input here. Input is assigned to hidden. Now once this object is created and we've given it a hidden word, one that we can't see, you're going to be able to run the getHint method, which will take in a string guess and generate an actual hint. And the rules of the hint are explained here. So we're going to loop through every single letter. Notice that whenever you are returning a string, it is very common to create a string and to assign it to the empty string. Okay, so that there are no spaces or letters currently assigned to the word, but it is a valid assignment statement here. Okay, and I'm gonna use this result to hold whatever my hint is that I am building. Now I have to loop through each letter of the guess and each letter of the hidden word and do a simple comparison. I am going to get each letter using the substring method, which you should be familiar with. Okay, and you will become more familiar with in the next lab, which will be Magpie. Okay, so for beginners, the loop starts at 0, and as long as I is less than the length of the word. Okay, so if the length of a word is a 5-letter word, this will loop beginning at 0 to 4, but it will not actually execute this particular loop when I becomes 5. My update is by adding 1 each time. So what I'm doing is within this loop I'm creating a letter H, and I'm assigning it hidden word dot substring I plus 1. This will start at 0 to 1 for the first letter, and then 1 to 2 for the second letter, 2 to 3, 4, 3 to 4, and 4 to 5. Okay, so this, for each iteration, this letter H will be getting updated with the next letter, or with the current letter in the hidden string. Likewise, in letter G, for the letter of the guess, I will be updating during each iteration, I will be updating letter G with the next letter, or the current letter of the guess. Now here I'm using the compare to. The compare to is either going to return a positive value if letter H is larger than letter G, or if letter H comes after letter G in the dictionary. And remember that lowercase letters come after uppercase letters, so uppercase letters are smaller FYI. And the compare to will give me equal if the compare to, the compare to will give me 0 if letter H and letter G contain the exact same string values. Okay, so I'm using the string letters to compare to each other. And if the result is 0, then I know that we have the same letter. And I'm going to result in this case, and I'm simply going to add or concatenate. Okay, the plus sign is concatenation because result up here is a string. I'm going to concatenate this letter onto the end of result because it's an exact match. If it's not an exact match, I want to ask else if. This else if statement will execute if and only if this first statement is false. Now, if I'm using index of, if index of also returns an integer value. If the value is, if letter G is not found in the hidden word, notice that I'm using the entire hidden word as a target here. Dot index of the letter G. If it's not found, this will equal -1. So if it's not equal to -1, that means that letter G is in the hidden word somewhere, but it is not in the current location at I. So I will simply do what? The rule says to give me a plus sign in that case. So I will not concatenate the letter, but this time I will concatenate the plus sign, meaning it's somewhere in the word, but it is not equal to the current letter. Okay, the string letter that we're examining from the hidden word. And if I don't find it in the current position and it's not located anywhere in the string, then I know that I can simply concatenate an asterisk for that particular letter in the result. Once this loop is done, results should be at the same length of what? Hidden and guess. The one precondition is that the guess and the hidden string must have the same length. Well, therefore, result will have the same length as the other two strings as well. Okay, and we'll return that string. The next method, interact, is a void method, so it won't return anything here. But it accepts an integer that says iterations and a string that says secret. As the problem stated, we will actually take in a new secret word and update the hidden word first. The second portion is another review topic where you are using a scanner to read data from the keyboard. Remember, the very first statement here has the import scanner so that you can take advantage of the object or the program that's already been created, or the class that has been created, and you're instantiating a new scanner object named scan that points at the keyboard or the system input. Okay, so you're going to inform the user. This is just nothing more than a message to the user that says, hey, this is how many guesses you get, how many iterations. So the number that you pass in is simply used here to concatenate in this message, and the length of your guess must be the same length of what this secret dot length is. So I could have also used hidden dot length here. Okay, characters long. The loop will repeatedly prompt the user. Okay, this for loop will repeatedly prompt the user for another word to input as a guess. Notice that the loop begins at 0, and as long as I is less than iteration, so if I is 3, you called it with 3 iterations here. We'll loop for 0, 1, and 2. That'll be a total of 3 iterations, but I will not execute when the value of I is actually equal to 3. My update is I++. So I'm gonna examine each letter. Okay, or I'm going to only loop the number of iterations that are specified according to this input parameter. And we'll see an example of this when we design the test class as well. Okay, so inside of the loop, you prompt the user for another guess here. Okay, so you gave some information here, but now you're prompting for guess. And since I starts at 0, I plus 1 is going to be 1 when I is 0. So that is going to say enter guess number 1. And I'm going to go to the scanner object, use the next method to read the next string from the keyboard, and I'm going to trim it. That will remove any leading and trailing spaces, and I'm going to force everything to go to all capital letters. And I'm going to store that result in guess. Remember, you cannot update a string. You must always reassign it. So here I'm just creating a new guess. It's going to have whatever value you type in on the keyboard, and it will convert that to uppercase. And here I'm going to pass that guess that's typed in from the keyboard up here to the get hint method, and it will execute this code and return result, which would be a combination of letters, a plus, and an asterisk. And I'm storing that in a different result. Notice that I'm using result as a variable name, but this result has been declared inside of this for loop and can only be seen inside of this for loop. Result above has been declared inside of this particular get hint and can only be used inside of this get hint. That's called the scope of a variable. So the scope of result will be inside of the for loop and only inside of the for loop between these two curly braces. If that result is actually the same as the hidden word, which means that the compare to will return 0, well, guess what? You've actually guessed the letter, the word, the hidden word, and it will say winner and I plus 1 guesses to the screen. And then look, it will return. That effectively ends the method. Okay, there will be no execution after this point if we hit this return, if this compare to is true. Otherwise, if it's not true, we will print the result to the screen so as we can provide that feedback to the actual user. So that will result as a combination of what? Letters, the plus sign, and asterisk. So that ends the for loop, and we will execute this particular loop or iterate whatever is specified in iterations as a parameter as passed in, unless we actually guess the actual word, and in that case we will return prematurely. Okay, if we complete the loop, which means we've iterated through all of the given iterations and we have not guessed the actual word by that number of guesses, we will simply output loser, and the hidden word was, and whatever hidden is. Okay, this should compile with no problems. Notice that this is the end of the class right here in the green section. If you put your cursor next to the curly brace, it will highlight the matching curly brace. Okay, so we have the end of the actual class, and if you hit compile again, that should work. Close it, and now we need to create a test class. So test hidden word. Here we only need to do a couple things, okay, to test this to make sure it works. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all the actual comments and code that's given to you by default whenever you create a new class. Public static void main string array args open curly brace, close curly brace. And what I want to do is I want to instantiate a hidden word. I'm going to call it HW is equal to a new hidden word. And remember, the constructor takes in an actual word, needs to be in all caps. So I'm going to say computer is my hidden word. So now what I can do is I can actually do system.out.println, and remember, my guess needs to be the exact same length of the actual hidden word. So just to confuse things here, I'm gonna take the R off the end. Well, not to confuse, but to test. Let's make sure that this works. I'm going to take the R off the end and put it in front. This should give me all plus signs because all the letters are there, but none of them are in the correct location. Oh, this is my guess, so I apologize. Let's actually be very explicit here. I'm going to say string result is equal to HW dot get hint, and I'm going to pass it as a parameter this value. Sorry about that, class. Okay, so this is my hint, my guess. R compute, okay, not computer. And now it stores my new hint, and I should simply be able to print out what result to the screen. Alright, I should be able to do the same thing again. Do 3 tests here. Okay, so I'm just going to put in A, B, C, D, E, F, and my guess needs to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. G and H. Okay, remember I could put this in as lowercase also because it's going to convert it to uppercase for me. I'll do that on the 3rd test. And now I don't need to redeclare result. I simply need to reassign result, and then it should give me a result here. That should give me something there. And now on the 3rd test, I will actually guess computer just to make sure. And I'll put it in all lowercase just to make sure that my 2 uppercase is actually working. So I'm going to compile this, close it, right click, void main, and run it. And it seems it gave me all pluses. It gave me A, B, C, so the C is present. D, E, there is an E, not in the current location, and none of the other letters are there. Well, that didn't work correctly. It doesn't seem that it converted my input all to uppercase. Let's go back and see why that didn't work. That should have given me a complete reveal on the word. So when I read, scan, next, I trim it and I send it to uppercase. Okay, what I want to do here, I'm assuming that my code here works. So when I call guess, this needs to be already in uppercase when I call get hint. So when I call the guess right, get hint with the string guess, it should be in uppercase. So I'm going to test right here. I'm going to say system.out.println, and I'm going to print guess is plus guess. So when I execute this code, it should print out what the actual value of guess is so I can verify. So I can just run the same test. Oh, it looks as though I'm not even executing that line of code. Okay, just as to not make the video string out. Bonus, if you all can figure out why this is not working, I'll give you some extra points. Okay, so just to make sure that our program is working, go ahead and give me all caps here. Close it, right click, run it. And it does actually reveal the word when I give it all caps. So remember, if you can figure out why this is not giving me 2 uppercase, then I think that I gotta give you all some extra points. Guess is still, and this line isn't even getting printed out when I compiled it, so that's a little hint where you all can go come in and figure out how to maybe get you some extra points. Compile the project. Logically, it does work. So to test it, make sure you use all caps all the time. All right? Thanks for listening.